Okay, I've blown this up a couple of times. Let's see if we can get a video out of this. So someone in the community asked the question about how do you know if a feature is going to be fun? So let's try to unpack that. So to start with, I actually would open with that's actually the wrong question. Fun is actually a relatively narrow window of a feature's success or failure. What you really want is to know if a feature is going to be engaging. Fun is a kind of engaging, but there are other ways why a player might be engaged in a feature. It might be rewarding, it might be competitive, and they can feel a sense of accomplishment. There's a giant list of potential reasons why a game or a feature might keep its players engaged and excited without actually technically being fun under the hood. But it's not really an answer to the question at all, is it? It just moves the goalpost a little bit, and now it's, well, how do you know if a feature or a game is going to be engaging? I suspect this isn't going to be as satisfying of an answer as someone was hoping for, but the answer is you test along the way. You're looking either for a proof of engagement or a disproof of engagement. And unfortunately, what you usually get is something in the middle. The earlier you can prove the engagement of a feature one way or the other, the better, because that allows you to focus your resources better. But it's actually very difficult to do that. So very early, very early, you can do a paper prototype. You can make a card version or a board game version of the feature in question and run people through that experience in order to try to determine if it's fun. And if it's fun, if that's fun, that's a pretty good sign, because the fidelity and engagement and pacing of the feature should only get better from there. If it's incredibly almost off-putting, then that's a good piece of information as well, because that's probably not a feature you want to pursue any further. But if it's not really very fun, but it's kind of interesting, or it's pretty fun, but not really completely fun, that's the sort of smushy middle ground that I'm talking about. Something to be careful of with paper prototypes, because they're a totally different medium, there can be a temptation to try to improve the engagement of the paper prototype as opposed to focusing on the feature as it will likely exist in the final game. Let me give you an example of that. In early Jade Empire days, we didn't really know what we were doing when it came to combat. So there was a paper prototype made of combat, and it was built using cards, and you had a hand of cards, and you were playing things, and it was useful for us to understand the way that combat kind of worked mechanically, about timing and windows and that sort of thing. But what started to happen relatively quickly was features started getting added into this paper prototype that really had nothing to do with an action-based combat system. They were really focused around making the card game more fun, as opposed to using it as a proof of concept or using it to try to find out the edges of the feature. So whenever you're prototyping, you need to set it aside early enough that you don't start becoming consumed by the medium that you're working in. Even when you move from paper prototyping into digital prototyping, this can still be a problem. So if you are prototyping a combat system and what you want to see is something to do with lines of sight, you might do a top-down prototype. Even though your game maybe is going to be third person over the shoulder, you might do a top-down prototype in Unity because it's quick to get going, just to sort of, again, feel your way through the engagement of the feature. But just like with paper prototyping, you can start to add things into this feature that are inappropriate to the final form of the feature. So when you are prototyping, paper, digital, whatever, be careful to stay on target and answer the questions you're trying to answer, which will be, is it engaging, but also kind of how the feature is going to work. With prototypings, there are basically three possible outcomes. This feature is super fun. Even in this incredibly low fidelity form, it's engaging, it's fun. this feature is off-putting and I don't see a path forward. Both of those are actually pretty good, because if you get those answers, you know either, great, we got a feature that's a winner, or no, we should probably just set this aside and move on. But in the middle is this unanswered question. You've put your dev goggles on and you're sort of seeing this and you're like, okay, I think this would be fun if it was running faster, because it's a paper prototype, so it's taking 30 seconds to do a turn and it would take 2 seconds in the actual game. Or I don't know if this is fun or not, but maybe. And unfortunately, in that middle ground, you don't have an answer. You can kind of judge based upon your own excitement to continue chasing the feature, but you don't know. Something to watch out for when you're putting your dev goggles on is some of us can get really thick dev goggles, and don't keep chasing a feature that isn't fun and probably won't become fun because you're squinting through these Coke bottle dev goggles and you can think you maybe can see the glimmer of something fun. Better maybe in that case to just set it aside. Okay, so if prototyping could give you an answer but probably won't, then what's next? Well, next is testing. You get something in the real environment and stand it up, surrounded by the other features of the game, and you start having testing applied to it. And I don't specifically mean QA in this case, because QA a lot of times will become blind to features, or they will become so focused on the mechanics or the correctness of something. This is about focus testing and usability testing and game testing and the team playing their game to see if the feature is engaging. And then one final thing, you've got your game, you've tested it within the team. If you can possibly do this, one other thing to test engagement of your feature is to put it in the hands of the people who are actually going to play your game. Now, again, there are different advantages to different forms of player testing. If it is a relatively complete cross-section of the game, that's a very good test. If you're testing a feature in isolation, you can run into the problems we've already talked about of the pacing being off, or a feature coming across as being much more engaging than it will actually be because you've built this sort of toy test of it. So if you can, definitely test with your players. If you can, test with your players with something that is as close to representative of the final game as you can. Not doing this, not having the time, can result in things being off. This is certainly one of the problems that a lot of games have with their progression mechanics, because they, even those that do betas, test in their community, but they do a test that is too short with the economy locked way down, and they don't see the cracks in the progression system from that test because there's simply not enough time, and it's not a real enough test to show those problems. Because the reality is that some features, while they might be engaging when you do a prototype, when they are spread out across the game, when their pacing is interrupted by the other parts of your game, by walking around and talking to people and going into your inventory, their level of engagement might dissipate. They might only be engaging because it's a concentrated thing in your prototype. But the opposite can be true as well. Some things are engaging, but only for very brief periods of time. So when you try to build a paper prototype, people kind of burn out on the mechanic very quickly. But when it's spread across the pacing of your game, it becomes something that can be more engaging. Inventory screens for a lot of people are that sort of thing. They're engaging at a micro level. You got something new, you're going to go into your inventory, you're going to figure out who to put it on that it's going to improve, and then you're done and you move on. And so there's a little bit of engagement, there's a little dopamine hit because you just got better, but you're not going to spend hours and hours in your inventory screen. Now, some people do, but most people don't. Getting the feature in the wild, so to speak, in the environment that is actually going to exist in, can be critical for a lot of features to determine whether or not it's going to actually be fun. The reality is that some features only really become truly engaging once they reach a high enough level of fidelity. You can evaluate the engagement level of a conversation when it's just text, or some people can, but some people can't. But then when you add the voice acting, that is going to increase the level of engagement of that conversation. When you add the staging, it will increase it again. When you add the acting and movement and props, that will increase it again. Sometimes some features only become engaging when they reach their fidelity targets. So for those ones, you just need to try to squint through your dev goggles and try to determine whether or not the path is clear to get you there. And finally, sometimes features aren't actually engaging on their own at all, but they become a palate cleanser or a change of pace that allows the other features that surround it to be more engaging due to the break. Okay, I'm going to put a giant asterisk on all of this. Most of the projects that I have led have been largely content-driven games as opposed to system-driven games. By which I mean that the process of playing the game, you are consuming a wide variety of content, and that is one of the major sources of engagement in the game. Something like a shmup is very much about its core central system. If that isn't engaging, if that isn't fun, then you got nothing. When you're listening to me here yammer on about how you find out if something is engaging or not, keep in mind that to some degree, the projects that I've led, all of them, have been somewhat content driven, which means that novelty plays a big part of the engagement, which changes the calculus of how you work this out, because novelty all by itself can be a form of engagement for something, and a feature that is only okay might be fine if it is providing that injection of something new into the game as a whole. If you're working on something with a really tight core loop, then you probably need to have a lot more confidence in your systems. So this video is my 90 millionth attempt to do this, and I think partly the reason I'm struggling with it is because the answer is so meandering. The answer is, it's difficult to tell if a feature is going to be engaging. You can have a feature that seems engaging in prototyping, and you can destroy that engagement by adding too many complexities or destroying its pacing. And a feature that doesn't seem very engaging in its prototype can become more and more engaging as it finds itself sitting within the game in the wild. So I realize this is not a satisfying answer to the question, but the answer to how do you tell if a feature is going to be engaging is check early, check often, be brutal with yourself, but realize that sometimes you got to push things a little bit further before you know for sure. Special thanks to my members. They provide the resources that this channel needs to keep running. If you are interested in becoming a member, there's a link down in the description. Did this help you out? Does this help you know how to make forward progress on your features? Sometimes you just got to go for it. Are you someone who works in game design and think that I'm being way too loosey-goosey on this? Maybe I am. Come yell at me down in the comments. We can have a conversation. If you enjoyed this or didn't enjoy it, give it a thumbs up because that will show YouTube that it's worth sharing with other people. I will see you again soon. Thank you.